Red Bull just did something in testing that has the entire paddock on edge, and it was not a headline lap time. While everyone was watching qualifying simulations, Max Verstappen quietly completed record mileage. Over 2,000 laps. 0 major mechanical failures. And long-run pace that, according to leaked GPS data, was nearly 0.4 per lap faster than Ferrari. That is not small. Over a full race distance, that is domination. And here is the part that shocked rival engineers. Verstappen set purple mini-sectors in the technical section of the track using a conservative engine map. Meaning he was not even pushing the car to its limit. On the straights, the new Ford-powered RB22 hit 344 km per hour without drag reduction. No clipping. 12 degrees cooler engine temperatures. And visible headroom left in reserve. Now add to that a confirmed Melbourne upgrade package. Blown diffuser side pods. A revised front wing targeting slow corner balance. A refined Stage 2 engine map optimized for race starts. Estimated gain? Up to half a second per lap compared to Bahrain baseline. If that is real, this is not evolution. It is escalation. The question is no longer whether Red Bull is competitive. It is whether anyone can stop what Verstappen just unlocked before race 1 even begins. Subscribe now, because what happens in Australia could redefine the pecking order immediately. Let's start with what really happened in Bahrain. Because the official timing sheets did not tell the full story. Red Bull was not chasing glory laps. Max Verstappen's best time, a 1 minute 33.162, looked strong, but it was not a full attack run. The real shock came in the long runs. According to leaked GPS telemetry, the RB22 was approximately 0.4 of a second per lap faster than Ferrari over extended stints. 0.4 per lap does not sound dramatic at first. But stretch that across a 50-lap race. That becomes 20 seconds. That is control. And here is the part that made engineers uneasy. In Sector 2, the technical middle portion of the circuit, Verstappen was setting purple mini-sectors using a conservative engine map setting. Conservative. That implies headroom. Potentially up to 0.8 per lap still hidden in more aggressive modes. Now combine that with the Ford power unit performance. 344 km per hour on the main straight without drag reduction. No clipping at the end of long straights. Operating temperatures running 12 degrees cooler than expected benchmarks. That matters enormously for Australia. Melbourne can punish cooling systems. Heat builds. Brake temps rise. Hybrid systems suffer. But a cooler running engine gives flexibility. Strategic options. Longer deployment windows. And then there is reliability. Over 2,000 laps completed across testing. 0 major mechanical failures. While rivals struggled with integration issues, the RB22 was simply circulating. Collecting data. Refining balance. Verstappen described the mileage as positive, while admitting the car still felt slightly awkward in tight hairpins. That is important. It tells you the weakness is narrow. Slow speed rotation. Not structural instability. And that weakness is exactly what the Melbourne upgrade package targets. So block 1 is simple. Red Bull did not dominate headlines in Bahrain. They dominated the details. Long run pace. Thermal efficiency. Engine headroom. Relentless mileage. And if those foundations hold true under race conditions, Australia may not be a fight. It may be confirmation of something the paddock is only beginning to suspect. Now let's talk about what Red Bull is actually bringing to Melbourne. Because this is where the shock factor multiplies. Christian Horner confirmed an evolved package internally labeled Spec 1.1. And it is not minor. It is targeted. Aggressive. Designed specifically for race pace dominance. First, the side pods. The so-called blown diffuser version 2 concept. A deeper undercut that channels airflow more aggressively toward the rear, effectively energizing the diffuser with hotter, faster air. The benefit? around 0.2 of a second in medium speed corners. At Albert Park, that is Sector 2 and Sector 3 performance. Grip where it matters. But they did not stop there. The front wing has been revised with a completely new main plane geometry. More camber. Better airflow control around the outboard flaps. Designed specifically to reduce the understeer Verstappen mentioned in slow corners. That targets Sector 1. Hairpins. Heavy braking zones. Corner entry rotation. In other words, they attacked the one weakness Max publicly acknowledged. Then comes the diffuser extension integrated into the rear crash structure. More efficient flow expansion. Improved traction on exit. Better rear stability when deploying full power. That is another 1/10 in Sector 3. And finally, the Ford power unit refinement. A Stage 2 engine map optimized for race starts and long straight deployment. Less lag in lower gears. No clipping at the end of straights. 12 degrees cooler operation compared to early projections. That gives them freedom. Freedom to deploy longer. Freedom to attack without overheating. Add all of that together, an insider's estimate between 4 and 0.6 per lap improvement over the Bahrain baseline. Half a second before race 1. That is enormous. But here is the nuance. The RB22 is reportedly sensitive on tire degradation if pushed aggressively over long stints. Verstappen himself hinted the tires require careful management. Which means Sunday execution matters. However, Bahrain simulation showed degradation as low as 1/10 per lap over 57 laps. That suggests the platform is fundamentally gentle when balanced correctly. So this next block is clear. Red Bull did not panic after testing. They evolved. They reinforced strengths. They targeted weaknesses. They added performance on top of already dominant long-run pace. And if the Melbourne package delivers as the data predicts, the shot will not be that Verstappen is fast. The shot will be how early in the season the gap begins to form. But here is where this story becomes even more unsettling for the rest of the grid. Because what Verstappen did in Bahrain was not about speed alone. It was about control. He did not chase the fastest single lap. He focused on balance. On tire behavior. On energy deployment consistency. And that tells you something critical about the RB22. It is not peaking. It is building. Remember, Red Bull completed over 2,000 laps in testing with 0 major mechanical failures. That kind of mileage does more than prove reliability. It allows correlation. 100% validation between simulation and track data. When correlation is perfect, development becomes surgical. You do not guess. You predict. Now imagine combining that level of understanding with an upgrade package estimated to deliver up to half a second per lap. That is not incremental improvement. That is strategic escalation before race 1. And here is the psychological layer that matters. Verstappen sounded calm. Measured. Even slightly understated when discussing balance improvements. When Max sounds relaxed after record mileage and hidden pace, it usually means one thing. He trusts the car. Trust allows aggression. Aggression creates gaps. Now think about Melbourne specifically. Sector 1 rewards front-end grip and rotation. The revised front wing directly targets that. Sector 2 demands aerodynamic efficiency in medium-speed transitions. The blown diffuser side pods deliver exactly that. Sector 3 is about traction and deployment onto the main straight. The diffuser extension and Stage 2 Ford engine map strengthen that phase. Every single sector addressed. Every weakness acknowledged. Every strength amplified. But let's explore the only branch that could disrupt this narrative. Tire sensitivity. If Verstappen pushes too aggressively early in a stint, rear degradation could spike. Melbourne's surface can be abrasive. If track temperatures climb, tire life becomes strategic chess.
However, Bahrain's simulation showed degradation of only 1/10 per lap across 57 laps.
That is elite consistency. Which suggests that when the car is balanced correctly, it protects its tires better than most rivals. So here is the bigger implication. If Red Bull qualifies near the front, and Verstappen manages the opening stint intelligently, the RB22 may simply control the race from there.
Clean air,
Stable temperatures,
efficient deployment, minimal degradation. That combination is suffocating for competitors.
and this is why teams are quietly nervous.
Because what Verstappen did in testing was not dramatic. It was disciplined. He extracted long-run pace without revealing full potential. He validated upgrades without exposing ultimate maps.
He built a foundation instead of chasing headlines.
And when a dominant team builds quietly instead of loudly,
that is when the real damage often begins.
Australia will reveal whether this development surge translates to visible dominance.
But if the data from Bahrain carries over,
the shock will not be that Red Bull is quick.
The shock will be how little resistance they face once the race settles into rhythm.